evening. It seems like about 2 years ago on the campaign trail, it's like forever, there were several debates, and a lot of the questions came up about selecting the new chief of police. And I think it was at St. Claret Church. The question was asked, what are you going to do to involve the public? And my promise, my pledge then was two things. One thing first was I would conduct a national search and do a comprehensive, transparent recruiting of our next chief of police. So I'm here to announce I'm fulfilled with my campaign pledge that we have a totally transparent, probably the biggest, most comprehensive recruitment of any position in the city of Fresno. And the chief of police is extremely important. It'll affect the lives of everybody in this room. But it's citizen-driven. Every person has the right and the option to weigh in on who we finally select. So you're going to be making questions like, what kind of trades, what kind of people do you want to be the chief of police? What do you think the issues are that are affecting the city of Fresno regarding policing? And we're going to listen. So there's going to be 5 community meetings. It'll be completed next week. You can go online and do the same thing, fill out the form. When you take all the data together by the end of May and give it to the recruiting company, that'll basically start the recruitment based on what the people of Fresno said they would like to see in terms of our next chief of police. And probably by about this September, October, we're going to select a new chief. There'll probably be 2 or 3 panels. There'll be a lot of involvement. And in the end, we're going to have a new chief of police. And it will include existing people. There's some really good people on the PD right now, some captains, lieutenants, deputy commanders that can apply. But it's going to be a national search. The best person is going to get the job. So I'm here to introduce our 3 facilitators, Pastors Binion, Pastors Kreiner, Pastor Lewis. And I appreciate your volunteers. And feel free to ask any questions. And thank you for the process. Pastor Binion.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pastor B.T. Lewis, Rising Star Missionary Baptist Church. That's Pastor Binion with his hand raised from the West Side Church, with his hand raised from the West Side Church of God. And this is DJ Kreiner, Pastor Kreiner from the St. Rest Baptist Church with his hand raised. And so the mayor asked us to come and help facilitate this meeting. And so what we did is that some of the things that we've been hearing about the previous 2 meetings, we were a little concerned about. We were hopeful to have this meeting in the cafeteria area. And so, but we still think we can make this work. And so what we want to do is we want to take these 4 questions. You can see the 4 questions. As soon as DJ moved to the right, you can, because you can't, we want to, these 4 questions, we're going to divide up into groups, and we're going to get real country and real raggedy, and we're going to divide up into groups, and we're going to just go a group in the far corner, and a group in the far corner, a group on this side, a group on this side, or just wherever you can gather. We want you in groups of less than 10. Less than 10. If you got more than 10, try to get to another group. Put your knees in the chairs, bend over and talk to folks, whatever you got to do. And we want to get your answers to these questions. And another thing we want in the group, we got some people that are going to act as group leaders. And if you're in the group and you're capable of doing that, please volunteer and don't wait for us to ask. We also want people in the group that can scribe the answers. And so, because we're going to have also a report out period after about 30 or 40 minutes in the group answering these questions, we're going to have a report out period. And then that scribe also, I want them to be responsible for emailing the group's answers. And I'll come around and say, you group 1, you group 2, you group 3, you group 4. And so I don't miss a group. We want you to email those answers to the questions to me, and so that I can put them in a document and then send them to our Councilman Arias, who's here, and our Mayor, Mayor Brand, in his office. Does that sound okay? When we heard about the other meetings, what we don't want is just a lot of talk with no trapping of the information and no documentation of the information. And so we want to document our discussion tonight in groups, and then you'll have a report out, and then we will also email that information, put it in the form of a document. And if you're interested, you can also tap somebody on the shoulder and say, you know what, I want a copy of that myself. All right? All right, so if there's nothing else, let's break up into groups of less than 10, of less than 10. That's going to cause you to move. That's going to cause you to move. That's going to cause some of y'all to come down front and actually talk to Eric Payne. And the questions are up here in front. They're in English, they're in Spanish, and they're in Hmong. And if you need an interpreter, please let us know.
You got 30 seconds to get in your group. 30 seconds to move and get in your group. Up front needs 4 more participants.
Can we bring it all back together, please? Andy, could you help me bring it back together, please?
All right. Everyone's attention, please. Pastor Benton is going to give us the direction, and then Aaron Foster is going to get us call on each group. Okay, so if you kind of hang out in that group, that'd be great. We have a recorder that will publicly record everything that is said. All right, so Aaron will call the group out, then ask if there's any further comment that you would like to make. If you would kind of talk as clear as you can, we want to try to get stuff down so that Southwest is heard. You ought to hear what I just said. I'm saying again.
Pastor, all right. You probably missed the message earlier by talking into the mic.
Man, I'm a preacher, man. That's what we do. We want to make sure that you are heard so that folks know that Southwest needs to be heard as well. I'm going to say it again so y'all can hear what I just said. I said Southwest needs to be heard as well, right? Southwest needs to be heard, right? All right? We have a say on who our next chief is, right? We know what a good officer looks like, right? Yeah, that good officer looks good. How you doing, Cap Salazar? You look good, right? Good to see you, Cap. Hey, Cap Salazar. Good to see you, man. Good to see you in the room. Good to see you in the room. All right, you want to give further instructions? And then Aaron?
All right, at this time, everyone, we're going to have Mr. Morris. You're going to go to the reporters. Okay, you want to come to you?
Bring the microphone.
All right, we're going to ask each group, you've been designated, I believe, a reporter, and we're going to ask each reporter to please stand and report what your group came and the comments that were made regarding these 4 questions, all right? Who will be the first? Who'll be the first?
No, I've got a microphone for you right here. I just need group number 1. Was that you? Designated. Who's your speaker?
Debbie recorded, so I'll fill in where I need to. Here, I can help.
Okay, good evening. Debbie Darden speaking on behalf of group number 1. And ours kind of entails all 4 questions, and so I'll kind of go through exactly what it is that we are looking for. We are looking for SROs, a connection between the youth on school campuses. We want a relationship where on the school that you talk about the youth on the school to prison pipeline in our schools, because we know that's a big factor. We want to stop the racial profiling to include gun violence. We need more training for police officers to include institutional training, implicit biases, and cultural training. Addressing the homeless population, bridging solidarity for a solution with all organizations and the police community to build up. We need restorative justice practices. We put emphasis on racial tension. We need transparency there. We want them to really understand the low communities where it's impact with ethnicity people. We really want to target our African Americans and our Hispanic people. The racial profiling, we put strong emphasis on that. Strong emphasis on diversity, because as we know, Southwest Fresno is very diverse. We want accountability on deadly act. So that includes on how officers deal with the public, and we know a lot of times it's dehumanizing our citizens. We want him to, or her, to support the HR 125, training and independent review. We need a community panel from Southwest and other areas with the voice at the table as we deal with the hiring pool. The drugs and crimes profiled differently. We need the resources to make sure that when they're being profiled or being investigated, that is fair across the board. We need the hiring of more African American police officers. It has been a big declining. Many who have retired out have not been replaced. We need to have the police chief believe in transparency of data to include any type of arrest, communicating to the public on ethnicity makeup in the department, an equal percentage of hiring so that you have a balance within your department. We also need disclosing the police arrest records. In this, one of the examples the gentleman gave us was how they are disclosing through an audit from the state of Missouri on police arrest records. They want an outside auditor, federally qualified to handle the DOJs when you're dealing with any type of situation within the department. Preferably the Department of Justice, and they want it to come from local jurisdictions. Yeah. Okay, so now beyond one. Okay.
That's just like Eric Payne, do 1 through 4.
Yeah.
We wanted all our laws to be captured.
Well, forgive us if we weren't clear. We want to handle one question at a time because of our recording. So it facilitates our recording if all of you reporters just respond to each question. So we're going to ask you to come up 4 times. Am I clear about that? Okay, let me say it again. I know I have a speech impediment. We're going to ask all you reporters to come up 4 times. And you want to respond to each question. So thank you, Sister Darden. Now, next group, again, want you to report on just question number 1. Who's next? Please come. Please come. Question number 1. Question number 1.
Question number 1 that we got on here is to help the homeless set back to proactivity and decriminalize homeless violence instead of locking them up. Find better resources for the homeless department.
All right, next group, please come quickly. Next group, please come. Again, we're just responding to question number 1.
Hello, for our question number 1, first of all, we want to know how is this report, if it's going to actually make an impact on the decision process. We want our police chief to be transparent about money expenditures, be community involvement, and to be available, be on site, be on deck, be on show. C, North Fresno challenges to merge, to give the same importance or relevance to the southwest side, merge both sides, southwest and northwest, and make them equal balance as far as the opportunities to work things or different issues that are in both sides of town. D, a chief not against props, to stand with community, no politics. E, care for people of color, significant diversity of leadership, inclusive of women. And a police chief to know your community and don't distance yourself from your community. G, to know Don't cut out vital programs for youth and seniors. 8, Fresno is a big city, which is equal to they should know the dynamics of the race and the growth and deal with 21st century ideals. Know the truth and be forthcoming. Don't criminalize poverty. Know that there are opportunities to know our homeless and to work with them. K, to know the new training methods and work with new methods and not stick with the same old methods.
All right, thank you. Again, we're responding to the question, what are the challenges in the city that you would like the new police chief to address? All right, next reporter.
Well, kind of talk about what those challenges in the city are.
All right, so I'm representing this group over here. My name's Marisa. So some of the issues that we want addressed is the racial issues and addressing racial bias, especially with PD and African American communities. Understanding that there is unethical treatment in the prison system. Also understanding that police operates on a profit system. What that means is that policing is concentrated in poor communities. So a question that we have to the chief is, our new chief would be, what are views on policing for profit? This includes examples of policing homelessness. And this is usually marginalization against a person, which can include scanners, language barriers, concentrated checkpoints. And lastly, also addressing the issue of human trafficking. The new chief needs to address this issue with the goal to eliminate human trafficking as well.
All righty. Very good. All right. Next reporter, question number 1. Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Joseph. I am a member of the Epsilon Delta Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. My group over there in the corner, we definitely went over a couple things. The things that we definitely felt were challenges that the new police chief should address would definitely be the drugs flowing in and out of the community here in Fresno, as well as the prostitution issues that are faced on a constant basis. What is that? The police patrolling in certain areas and their lack of that in certain areas, such as for the profit and nonprofit of the police. The homelessness, criminalization of the homeless population here in Fresno. The language access and the language barriers that actually a lot of people in Fresno actually deal with, and for that to be such a big challenge and not looked at by the police chief would definitely be something that we definitely wanted to make sure was heard out today, as well as the amount of police that we have in the schools and how they police the students and their interaction and relationship with the students and how they perceive them, as well as the militarization of police and how they come at certain situations given poverty-stricken areas or other rural areas, the criminalization of people of color, and the racism that is counterproductive toward everything that we're trying to do by being here today. That's about it.
All right, please come quickly. Next reporter, please come quickly. Thank you. Sister Curry.
Good evening, Venice Curry. What are the challenges in this city that we would like the police chief to address? These are the ones that we came up with, this group in the middle. Gangs and violence, human trafficking, the activity on Motel Drive Parkway, racial profiling and violence, excessive police force, the lack of accountability and spending and in actions between police and people of color, and the correlation between our unfinished neighborhoods, poverty, and criminalizing our young people.
Right. Next reporter, please come quickly. Next reporter, please come quickly. Come quickly, please.
That was all the groups.
Is that all the group? All right, question number 2. What issues facing the city should the new police chief be aware of and understand? All right? Just Darn.
Okay, on this one right here for number 2, it is dollars available to hire much needed police officers and to understand the impact of the tales of two cities, North versus South, as it relates to fair treatment and police brutality.
All righty. Please come. Question number 2, next group. Please come. Come quick. Question number 2.
Said, what are the issues facing the city? The handwriting is horrible. Excuse me. Said, someone who knows the area
Can we have the person who transcribed this? If you would make your way to the altar, please. Who wrote this? Reza? Somebody said Reza. Sukaina, could you come and read your husband's writing? Someone who knows the area. Goal-driven.
Oh, someone is goal-driven.
Great.
Peaceful presence, and that's the only thing that I can understand. So we'll go to the second group.
Say it again.
All right, handwriting class, all right.
So we
He's-
have,
he's gonna come.
here's Pastor Benning, it's someone who knows the area well, and
I didn't write. Let me see. No, that's your hand. Oh, that part's mine. Great divide between communities in north and south, and to have a peaceful presence. And that handwriting is beautiful, man.
you got it? All right, wonderful.
All right, okay. Next reporter, please come. Question 2, please come, quickly. Question number 2. Thank you for coming.
And I apologize. I'm Pastor Alexandria Crowder, Kingdom Children Ministries. I'm part of that wonderful group over here in the corner, if I didn't say so. And they had a lot of great answers. Question number 2, our police chief should recognize the homeless increase and the seriousness of treatment for homeless, panhandling, don't criminalize the homeless. Also, homelessness and properties tossed in bins and moved from neighborhood to neighborhood. No caps on rent equals homelessness in a lot of situations, which result in crime. C, give same attention to youth killed on Southwest as to those killed or criminalized in Fig Garden. Accountability meeting quarterly to report back to the community things that are going on. E, there is a direct disconnect with people and law enforcement as far as communication with people of color. Bridge the gap of communication. Is there connection with police and ICE? Because there was a question about whether local law enforcement coordinate with ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, for cultural bias training or to help to make the arrest. Exaggerated bias policing. It doesn't, and also there was a question about the number of officers on a given ticket or stop. It doesn't take 3 officers or an over-exaggeration of force on citizens in some instances.
All right, thank you. Next.
For issues, what was this one again? Issues facing the city that police chief needs to understand and be aware of. We started off that there needs to be a holistic picture and understanding of personal health. This includes understanding social determinants of health, and that there can be other solutions other than policing, that there should be a focus on rehabilitation rather than just punishment. New chief does need to be aware that over 50% of the city budget from general fund goes to Fresno PD, and this does not include money for Fresno Unified as well and other outside contracts. So there needs to be increased transparency. Gotta flip a page. There is an issue of, this is mentioned as well, the militarization of the police force. There needs to be a focus on demilitarization. There have been instances of tanks in communities, police trainings and demonstrations in neighborhoods that was in English only, so there was issues of language barriers there. In regards to officer morale, there was a 40% of officers who had low morale or also disagreed with the leadership. There needs to be a focus on the school to prison pipeline, understanding that SROs do serve as an intimidation factor and students can't learn when they are scared. And the chief should have a plan to address corruption in the system.
Mama. All right, next reporter, please come. Question number 2. Next reporter, question number 2. Please come.
What are the issues facing the city that the police chief should be aware of? The historical perspective of the city of Fresno, how we got where we are, that the tale of two cities is still very active, that we should be aware of the mistrust and distrust based on experience and not just a myth, that people don't trust the police for other reasons. and the experiences of racial profiling and the criminalization of our students, again, in schools, and the criminalization of homeless people and students of color.
Thank you, sister. Come, sir, come. Please come. Thank you.
Gotcha, it's me again. So ours was, we really talked about, we want somebody who understands the reality of Fresno and not just what Fresno looks like on paper. So we want someone who's capable of understanding the actual issues that are going on, such as the different things that that other people have spoke about, but actually understanding that that's a reality and that we also need to counteract that and not just say, oh, it's on paper and then over-exacerbate the situation or make it 10 times worse, because reacting to something on paper is different than how you would react in reality. So we definitely wanted somebody who was rooted in reality and the reality of Fresno and what actually happens on the streets when there's no one else there and it's just us citizens in Fresno.
Okay, all right. Is that the last one? Any other group have not reported on question number 2? Any other group? Please come. All right. Question number 3. What qualities are most important to look for in our next chief? All right. So, Dart, you want to start off?
Okay, we have transparency, a connection with our youth, knowledge and experience working in a city-designed poverty community with emphasis on don't judge our community by its color.
We have someone who is familiar with the culture of Fresno, one who has compassion and is open to public opinion in an effort to make change.
Thank you. All right, please come, please come. Don't, come quickly, please, come quickly. Thank you. Again, the question. What qualities are most important that we're looking for in our next chief? Go ahead.
Trust, values, relational, communication skills, transparency, be open, honest with community, being available for community, be strong in character, lead through serving, listen to what the community wants, integrity, no questionable background, ethical, know what biases people have, don't just depend on stats, look at current realities and put community first. More community needs and resources, make monies available, question of where marijuana tax monies are going, put community first, where the need truly is, mental health services are essential, invest more in services instead of locking them up.
All right, thank you. Next, come quickly. Thank you, young lady, right there.
Okay, for number 3, sorry, I can't read my notes. Okay, so we said could be from Fresno, outside of Fresno, but preferably person of color, believes and understands in the schools and wants to work with youth, so understands and views youth as real people, that youth have power and that youth need to be trusted, and in order to create solutions, that they should not be viewed as criminals. My bad. Oh, sorry. Okay. Centers mental health. So understanding that there needs to be more trainings to meet people where they're at, to improve systems. And this is both internally and in the community as well. Qualities also needs, a new chief needs to understand the historical context of the city, understand leaders, community members, nonprofits, youth organizations, again, invest in youth and not tokenizing youth so that there's an authentic integration of voice. And someone who will not uphold the old regime, to have morals, to stand for the community, and is able to change the mindset of officers as well, and has and that we are able to understand the historical experience of this new chief, which might include backgrounds, looking into records, and have that accessible to the community. Understand that there is bias and that you need to acknowledge bias, whether that's implicit or explicit, and be able to act with that understanding, and also have trainings in order to understand that bias as well.
All right. Thank you, young lady. Please come. Please come. Come quickly. Thank you.
Qualities that are important, we started with honesty and integrity, someone who is self-aware and has self-management skills, someone who has a proven record and experience in community policing, who understands and models fairness and equity in dealing with all communities, one who is open to education and open to alternatives to criminalizing communities of color, and one who is willing to work with young people and other community groups.
So for our third one, we would want someone who is open-minded, someone who is culturally competent and understanding, someone who is loyal to the community, someone who understands that there needs to be more police training in first aid, first responders, etc. Someone who brings people together and knows how to bring the black and brown community together. Someone who understands how to treat people in a humane way regardless of the situation. Someone who is here to protect and serve rather than to enforce, not another politician. Someone who understands child development and adolescent development needs to be at a higher, we need to understand that at a higher rate, as well as someone who is aware of social justice issues such as the LGBTQ plus community, as well as, I hate to not say this because I cannot read it, and I would hate to marginalize those people. People of color, POC, that's what you meant. POC, people of color. So yeah, everyone. So POC and everyone. So yeah. Yeah, so that's what we got.
All right, thank you.
Good job, good job.
Excellent. Our last question will be, is there anything else the city manager should consider when selecting our next police chief? Last question. All right, sister. Yes, ma'am. All right, can we do that at the end? Would that be okay, Mother? All right, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All right.
Answering number 4, ours is the voices, making sure that the voices coming from the community residents are heard. To ensure that the mayor has no emphasis on selecting the new police chief. And as you check for the new police chief, their experience and background, to include a thorough background check.
All right, please come quickly. Last question. Please come. Last question. Please come quickly. Thank you for coming.
I'll read this one. It was short. It says, we want them to build a diverse force that has trust and ties to the community.
Thank you.
What we stated, the new chief needs to be able to build trust in the city and needs to establish ties immediately and not just be reactive. The chief should not be political and does not need to overstep boundaries in politics. Policing should be nonpartisan. Policing should be centered on what is best for the community. And lastly, understand that leaders need to accelerate positive change.
All right. All right.
We close with, we want to make sure that monies and resources that are allotted for West Fresno be used for West Fresno, and that they include, that in selection of the police chief, that it includes the people's voice and let the community be involved. We hope the community will be included and their voice will be heard. We want the city council and city managers to hold the chief accountable. And we pray that whoever is on the panel that selects our chief considers the requests of our groups and that these meetings are not in vain.
Just very come.
I like that. I like that.
The other factors we wanted considered were that the police chief should be apolitical, there should be firm boundaries between the elected officials, developers, and city council members, that there should be a focus on maintaining professionalism and objectivity in every aspect of the job, including the disbursement and usage of funds, the usage of funds that are coming from other sources like LCAP, that the transparency and accountability in the actions of the police should be reinforced by having an independent auditor. And we also thought it was important that the city manager have some of these same characteristics and qualities in order to hire.
All right. We have one last. Oh, come in.
Hi, my name is Haley. I'm 17 years old and I attend Big Picture High School. And for number 4, if there's anything else that we want the city management to know about choosing a new chief of police, or we want them to be involved with the community. We want them to be aware of their privileges. We want someone to be a part of the inclusive we instead of the exclusive we. I don't know how to word that, but yes. Some people were bugging about how they wanted more of the community meetings to be in the afternoons. And we want someone with great references. I don't know how to, we want someone to be transparent with the public, and something else we want is we want someone that we can trust with our kids, us as the children and teenagers, and so we could feel safe in this community. And that's all. Thank you.
Wonderful young lady. Thank you. Well, give yourselves a big hand. You've done outstanding. And thank you for the very thoughtful responses that you gave. Now, our community mother, Mother Mary Curry, has made a request. And where I was raised, when your mother asked you to do something, you said, yes, ma'am. And so we're going to ask for all of our city officials present to please stand. Please stand, our city officials, elected officials, our mayor, our city council, our district commanders here, other city officials who are here, our chief of staff are here. We have also elected school board members here as well. And we, again, thank you for being here today. Mother, is this okay? Yeah. All right. Oh, she want, okay, okay.
Introduction.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to ask you to all come down front of the microphone, introduce yourself and your position of service.
Thank you, Pastor. My name is Miguel Arias. I'm your council member for this area. I also think that not only should you know that I'm here, but you should also know how I would answer these questions. So let me answer the first one. What are the challenges the city that I'd like the new chief to address? I want him to address the amount of officer-involved shootings in our communities. What are the issues facing the city that the police chief should be aware of and understand? The historical discrimination and intentional de-investment that's occurred in South Fresno and the implications of that history. What qualities are most important to look in the next chief? I would like a chief that's not a politician, a chief that doesn't oppose community initiatives like Measure P, a chief that doesn't endorse council candidates or endorse his boss. I need a professional chief that's gonna do his work, keep his head down, be in the community or her work, and sticks to what he knows or she knows. And what should the city manager consider when selecting a chief? I would say, what should the mayor of Fresno consider when selecting a chief? The mayor should consider a chief that's gonna represent all of us, that's gonna have not only press conferences when we arrest people, but also press conferences when we identify folks that shouldn't be wearing a badge in our community. A police chief that looks at the best that we have to offer and not looks at it simply based on the criminal acts that have occurred in our communities. And a police chief that shares your values and our values, not just is gonna come here for a paycheck. And finally, a police chief that's willing to live in our communities, preferably south of Shaw, so he can live or she can live, see us, meet us, be in our neighborhoods, send their kids to our schools, and not just drive in, drive out. Thank you all.
All right. We'll ask for all of our city officials to introduce themselves and let us know who they are and where they serve. All right. It's not required of you to respond to all the questions, okay? All right. Next.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Darden, and I am a community resident of Southwest Fresno, born and raised, been living here for 52 years. I serve as the chair on the Golden West Side Planning Committee. I also serve as a BayPAC member. I sit on the State Center College Citizens Bond, where we are overseeing how the state colleges are spending $480 million. And as we well know, we have a junior college that's going to be located across the street from Gaston that is getting ready to roll out. I am one who served. I love this community, although we do need development. It is sad that we've gone through so many decades without, but my heart and my goal is serving this community with economic development and also in our education system. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Good evening. Thank you all for attending tonight. We did a fantastic job as a community. We are all educated and intelligent, and we showed that today. My name is Kimberly Tapscott Monson. I am your trustee for Fresno County Board of Education Area 1. And just a little side note that I love to say, I am the first woman of color elected to the board. Thank you, and as we say in 2019, we're still saying the first, but I don't mind being the first, and as long as I'm not the last. Also, I am BWAPA's political chair. I am also a member of BayPAC, and I also have the honor of serving Debbie Darden as her alternate for the Democratic Party. And we're just grateful that everyone's here. We're glad the media is here, and everyone has taken the time out to come into our community and to let our voices be heard. Thank you.
All right, next. Please come, please come. Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor, please come.
Thank you. Let's give our facilitators, Pastor Kreiner, Pastor Binion, and Pastor Lewis, give them a big hand. Great organization. I want to tell everybody here tonight, I'm listening to all these sessions, and it's coming in here. I've lived in this city for over 60 years. I grew up in very humble beginnings in South Beach, Fresno. I love this community. I love the diversity. And I truly, in my heart, want to see this city prosper. And I realize there's been inequities and injustices. I can't do everything overnight, but I'll do the best I can as long as I'm the mayor to make sure there's equal justice for the entire community, equal economic prosperity. And this is going to be a long process, but in the end, we're going to make a good choice that'll serve the entire community. Thank you for coming tonight.
Mr. Mayor, any other city representatives, officials here? Of course, we want to acknowledge our district commander, Captain Mark Salazar, who was present here tonight. All right. All right. Well, again, beloved, it's so great to see you. I believe this is the greatest response from any of the other listening sessions, I believe. So you showed yourself tonight, so thank you so much. We'll have a final word and closing word from Pastor David Joseph Kreiner.
Okay, so before we go, there's two things that we want to do, and I feel like this is vital. Ma'am. Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to have, is it Tim? You want to explain the next step? Tim, come up here and explain the next step. But as Tim is coming up to explain the next step, we're going to ask those recorders that recorded this down, we want to make sure that what was stated by you is actually what gets downtown, okay? So we're going to ask you to do a little bit of homework, if you don't mind. The recorder or whoever in your group that can, if you wouldn't mind emailing your answers to your questions, just the bullet points to them, if you would email it to Aaron Foster for us, that'd be great. Aaron, oh, Andy said don't do that. That's cold, man. That's your employee, man. You hired him too, bro. Andy's white but black on the inside. He trying to tell you I don't say it. That's cold, Andy. You want to put it up, bro? Okay. So Aaron's gonna put his email up. Oh, put it on the paper, Aaron. Kim? And my sis, there is a question that my sis is dying to ask, and I feel convicted by not allowing her to ask this, to lay this out, at least for it to sit in the hearts of our leader. I want her to just, from her own mouth, to ask this.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kimberly McCoy. I am the project director for Fresno Building Healthy Communities. And the last meeting that I attended at Sunnyside High School, we were told that Terry Black was retained to recruit a recruiting firm to assist with the search for the new police chief. Well, I've been to 2 meetings and I haven't seen that person, and I'm wondering, is that person's going to be present at the next meeting so he or she can take questions from the community?
Terry Black. So I didn't have the answer to that, and I don't feel right just to leave it sitting out there. That's my sister from the community that is a very strong voice in the community. So I want to make sure that our community leaders do have an opportunity to say something, especially to address that question. So Kim, your question is out there. I will let our leaders deal with that question, even if they answer that to you directly. All right, it needs to be answered by you. Okay. Aaron, do you have your, Lord Jesus, Aaron. Aaron, is that an at? Lord help. Okay, is Aaron is Aaron at faithinthevalley.org. Thank you, sister. Thank you, sister. There's always a ram in the bush. Cross that other one off, though, sis. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Andy, I'm sorry. I understand now. I understand. Everybody put a fist up for our brother, please. He needs the power, please. All right, Tim, you want to give a next step? Okay, give a next step.
My name is Jeff Cardell. I'm the Director of Personnel Services, and directly to the question about whether or not Terry Black is going to be at any of these sessions, she is not. However, she is actually viewing these sessions, and she is receiving all of the comments immediately after each session, the following day. Terry Black is the recruiting firm that we have hired to assist us in the search for the next police chief, to identify qualified candidates by doing a national search. And the next step in this process, after the conclusion of all these community meetings, is to take all of this information and to actually go out and advertise the job and to identify candidates and ask Terry to make those recommendations back to the city. And then at that point in time, we will be conducting a series of interview panels that will involve members of the community. We haven't identified who yet from the community at this point in time, but that's consistent with what I've expressed previously.
What is the size of that contract?
The value of the contract? Yes. It's about $30,000.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so Kim, boom. Proud of you, sis. Proud of you. Well, I got you, sis. So how about we take that? How about we take that to leadership? All right, it's been said, so let's take that to leadership. Let us take that to leadership. Let's see what we can do about that, sis, okay? All right, on behalf of this community, not saying whatsoever that myself, Pastor Binion, or Pastor Lewis are the reps for this community. That is not it whatsoever. You are actually the reps. The only reason why we agreed to stand and to try to chair this deal is because we cared for this community. But we got so many people in here that are key leaders. You got Sabina, you got Reza. You definitely have, in my opinion, the son of the Moses of West Fresno, and that's Sean Riggins, whose father was Dr. Chester Riggins. And if you don't know Dr. Chester Riggins, something wrong with you, okay? But I think that it's important for us to stand on the shoulders of those that came before us. And we still have a couple of those Moses that are still with us, right? So we have Sister Mother Mary Curry, who is the mother of West Fresno, all right? If you got a problem with that, come talk to me, okay? So we have individuals that are giving us the stamp of approval to continue to try to help West Fresno's voice, not just be a voice that is heard sometime, but a voice that's heard all the time. And it takes us coming together, not just here though, family, but on Thursdays at City Hall, we gotta show up. I'm gonna say it again, we gotta show up, family, okay? Right? When it's our time for voices to be heard, we have to make sure that we're at the table, and you all did that tonight. And so from the bottom of our heart, Pastor Binion, myself, Pastor Lewis, and the entire West Fresno, we say thank you for showing up tonight. Thank you for making your voice heard, but make sure this is not the last time your voice gets heard, all right? Amen? Ma'am.
So I came to this meeting not really knowing what to expect, but this certainly wasn't what I was expecting, because I've already answered these questions online. They're the same questions that are on the city's website. I was coming here more to hear about the process and try to get some information about what the city is doing, what the recruitment process looks like. Are there going to be more meetings? That somebody mentioned a committee, citizens or community members. How are those committee members chosen? Like information like that. Is there going to be more meetings?
Well, since we had a responsibility to chair this one, but after chairing this one and hearing responses from Kim, Mother Curry, and yourself, I think it is pivotal to have something after this that explains, okay, this is what we took, now this is where we're going from there. So myself, Pastor Binion, Pastor Lewis, I'm gonna bring Aaron in, we're gonna bring Reza, we're gonna bring Mother Curry in. We're gonna see what we can do in order to bring us back together to kind of hear what happens next. Kind of hear what the actual process will be now that the questions from every particular district or area in Fresno have been received. So now we know exactly who's going to be on those teams, what things happen next. So no, I'm praying that this is not it, and I'm not going to let this be the last time that we come together so that we can actually know our questions have been taken, our answers have been taken, and now they're just not thrown away, but they're actually taken in consideration. So it is our goal as leaders to make sure that we come back to the table to hear what happened from this implementation that we have here. That is my job. That's what I'm going to try to do, okay? I can give you my word on that, okay? All right? This is going to be the last one. Yes, ma'am. Tim passed it to this gentleman who explained it.
No, that was the Terry question. We wanted to know the next, when we originally the next steps.
Oh, okay. Tim?
The next step, as Jeff explained, is, well, as he didn't explain, is we take this input, and actually we have 2 more community meetings. We have one next Tuesday the 7th at Fresno High School, and then we have one a week from today, next Thursday, at Hoover High School to cover the other 2 policing districts that we haven't talked to yet. This is our 3rd of 5. So our next step is to develop the brochure. Terry Black will circulate that brochure across the country to try and recruit candidates from all over the country. Then we will receive those applications, and during that time period, during this time period, we're going to tabulate all the responses we receive from the online surveys, which are somewhere around, it's over 1,000 right now. I don't know an exact number, but I do know it's over 1,000. We expect many more. As well as the input we've received from this and the other 4 community meetings, will go into helping to define what goes into the brochure so that we're looking for the right candidate. And then we will receive those applications. Once we receive those applications, I think though the application period closes in mid-June, Jeff, is what the tentative plan is. We're go through the applications with this input in mind, with everything that you guys have told us that you're looking for in a police chief and the issues they should address, the challenges, those types of things. We will narrow it down to the top tier of candidates, which could be 8, it could be 10, it could be 12. We don't know. We're not going to put a number on it. And then we will invite those candidates to come down and be interviewed. We expect to have approximately 3 interview panels, which will include members of the community on each of those interview panels. And like it was said earlier, we have not chosen who we're going to put on that, but we're going to try and make it representative of the diversity that is the city of Fresno. And by the way, I was born and raised in Fresno and have proudly lived here, and I appreciate this town very much and the great people in it. And then after that interview panel, that series of interview panels of the top tier, we're narrowed down to the top 2 or 3 and do another set of interviews. And from there, we will make a decision. But this input that we receive through the online surveys and all these community meetings will definitely inform this process from the very beginning all the way to the end when the final decision is made. So does that, Ms. Actually, no. Well, because you have 3 very smart men tonight, and Pastors Binion, Lewis, and Greiner, who told us that they would prefer, since basically what we told them is we set up this meeting from 6 to 8. We're going to give about a 5-minute introduction. After we introduce it, it's your meeting, because it's the community's meeting. They decided in their mind, from their experience here, that this format was the best way to do it. And I have to say, from what I've seen tonight, I absolutely 100% agree with them. I think we got fantastic feedback tonight and input.
But my concern is, and I've done this for years, I generally go to all the meetings. I'm not able to do that anymore. I generally go to all of them. And for the most part, there's a presentation for each group. It's not similar. Many times it's not even close. So I'm asking that question for a specific reason. Because if we're showing these kind of videos, what other kind of videos are other communities showing? Can we find a way to bring that all together and let us know?
Yes. As a matter of fact, the previous 2 meetings, this meeting, have all been recorded by CMAC, and you can go at cmac.com, I believe, or cmac.tv, and view the previous 2 sessions as well as this session. This gentleman here.
Are any of those interviews going to be public, open to the public?
We don't know yet at this point. It's tricky because you've got people that are currently employed by other police departments that don't want to lose their job by doing a public interview. So if it's possible, we will, but at this point, we can't say whether it's possible. Sir.
Might be too late, but how come we don't promote from within?
But believe me, we might.
Might be the best one instead of bringing somebody out of Fresno, somebody that.
Well, actually, it's going to be a good way to see that how strong and qualified the people within the department that apply are compared to what we see from outside the department. Everybody is invited to apply.
To add to that, you might have somebody that's overly qualified that might come from New York, but, somebody from Fresno that knows the community better, that might be a better suit other than, this guy up here. So we might want to go with someone that knows the community more better than, be a, 100% sniper, for example.
Absolutely.
Can we get a commitment from the folks who are leading this process to see sort of a consolidated report of the feedback from all of these community meetings so that
Yes.
we know that the information collected
Yes.
isn't being lost?
Yes, that is our plan. In the back. Northern California. Any other questions before I get?
Who will do the vetting, the background search of the individuals that will be interviewed? Will it be the city human resources, or will it be the consultant?
Combination of both. Ma'am? Yes, there's certain educational qualifications. There's certain they have to be, I think it's 10 years or more experience in a management capacity in a police department. They have to have a post certificate. They have to have a bachelor's degree, subjects such as criminology, political science types of things. Master's is extra and above that, and there are some other requirements. I think that will all be posted when that brochure is finally done. I think there was one over here, and then I'll get to you.
No, I was going to ask you to describe what POST is and why that matters.
Police officer standards and training. Did I get it right? It's Captain Salazar can probably describe it best because he is actually I think he has an advanced post degree.
He has a lot of those qualifications.
Peace Officer Standards and Training is a organization statewide that provides training to officers, the law enforcement community, to ensure the professionalism of the force. And officers at a minimum start with a basic certificate. They advance to an advanced, intermediate, advanced, supervisory, management. And in this capacity, we want at minimum a management certificate, not, and if they have an executive certificate, that's even better. But at least a management certificate, 10 years of experience. We're looking for qualified people. And it may be somebody who comes from within inside. It may not be.
I think that would be the first thing that we should have looked at as a businessman myself. I like to look at within instead of just trying to bring somebody from outside. That would be the first answer.
If the interviews are not open to the public, is it possible to view the list of candidates who have applied for the position? For example, when we vote for city council members and vote for our congressmen, they have qualifications that they put down in their application, some kind of brochure, the list of the people, it's 110 or whatever you guys decide to show to the public.
At this time, we're not, that's not something we would necessarily provide. Again, coming from the perspective of these are individuals who have current jobs. We are not interested in putting any of that in jeopardy in any way, shape, or form.
I have a question about Fresno is a very diverse community. A lot of immigrant communities live here as well. How can we be sure that the new chief will have an understanding about different types of community that live in each side of Fresno?
From what I've heard and what I know and having lived in Fresno my entire life, that's going to be one of the major requirements because Fresno is a gigantic melting pot of 100 different languages, I think, and tons of different cultures. So yeah, that's going to be an important aspect.
Maybe my misunderstanding was coming to the meeting. I thought it was a meeting that run and stuff, and I don't think we need to look for no other great man to catch the salad. You know, he's a great man in the community. He loves the community. He's everywhere in the community. So I don't even know why we even looking for anybody else. That's the man right there in the corner.
Mr. Levine.
Two more. We have to honor, QT, which is the principal of the school, has given us a certain time in here, and they have to get stuff cleaned up to get ready for school tomorrow, okay? So I think we'll do two more, and then we want to honor and respect the principal of this school, QT. We want to try to get ourselves out so that they can get clean and get set for tomorrow.
Andy?
So, one example, one of the things that's come up tonight is folks interested in a commitment that the chief would not engage in political endorsements, candidate endorsements, or propositions. Is there that's just one example, but is there anything that would prevent the city manager from, in the interview process, asking the candidate, if hired, would they commit to do, for instance, not participate in endorsements?
Actually, I wrote that question in red on my legal pad of taking notes for what I heard in the meeting. So we will find that answer out, yes.
One last one. Denise, we want.
We'll make it two because this gentleman hasn't raised his hand yet, so sorry.
That's okay.
My privilege to add one.
Yeah, I'd just like to know, as part of the vetting process, are there some good standards for how you vet the chief or potential chief on the ground of emotional maturity, self-management, and self-awareness? Besides the normal psychological evaluation, are there some additional standards in there?
I'm going to ask, he's a professional, I'm going to let him answer that question.
I would say it is consistent with the standards that are that apply to law enforcement officers generally in terms of psychological background.
And does a psychiatrist do the evaluation?
Yes, we do a thorough background. This is presuming that we are not bringing somebody from within. from the perspective that we have somebody that we are bringing from outside of this organization, we would be conducting a thorough background check. We already, and we would be having them go through the same pre-employment process that any other law enforcement officer in our community would go through.
Sir?
I moved to Fresno in 2010, and I've been always involved.
Welcome to Fresno.
Thank you. And I've been always involved in a number of organizations, working with at-risk kids. 2016, 2017, I was the president of Big Brothers Big Sisters, and we started what's called Bigs in Blue. And we talked to all the captains to get volunteers from the police department to volunteer. And I want to say that we had one star captain, which is Henry Light over here. He's the most involved person in the community I know in Fresno. And I don't know why we're looking outside. If I have good people over here, we're looking outside as if there's nobody here in Fresno that knows the community and can work for Fresno better than anybody else. And I believe this person is really good.
Thank you, man. So it's time to, we have to wrap up on it. QT. So let me say this real quick. There is something that was told to me when I was, how do I say this, Mother Curry? Asked to lead St. Rest, all right? As much as I fought against this meeting, this is what Deacon Wiley told me. He said, trust the process. What he told me, he said, trust the process. Who God wants will rise to the surface, all right? We're going to ask the same thing, right? Trust the people that are in this room, yourselves, that who you are praying will rise to the surface. Yes, you have Captain Salazar in here. Yeah, you have people that you want. But there has to be a process that needs to go through. The vetting process needs to go through. Because we would hate for Cap to get in, right? And then people start saying stuff about him that people say about other folks. Trust it. Okay?
Is he being vetted? Is he being vetted?
Trust it. Trust the time. As a team together, let's pray, let's stay as a community, and let's push forward to make Fresno what it needs to be. Amen? Let's stand up, man.